Hi there and welcome to the Daily Gardener, and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's February 10th, and there are just 38 days until spring. Today we celebrate a botanist who gave Meriwether Lewis a crash course in botany. And we'll also learn about a poet who wrote some touching poems that incorporated the natural world. We'll hear some words about getting the garden ready for growing. Straightforward advice on getting started. And we grow that garden library today with a book about a garden style that's never gone out of style, cottage gardening. And then we'll wrap things up with a pioneer naturalist who wrote books that became a beloved part of many modern childhoods. But first, just a reminder to head on over to thedailygardener.org. That's the website for the show. You'll find all of the articles that I've written on botanical history and botanical literature there, as well as an opportunity to sign up to receive the free Friday newsletter, which is like getting a little garden letter from me every single week in your inbox. And I share botanical history and literature to tide you over for the weekend, along with garden-related items for your calendar, gift ideas, and so forth. And if you'd like me to share some gardener greetings on the show on your behalf, just send your garden pictures, stories, birthday wishes, and so forth to me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. Here's today's curated news. Today's news comes from one of my favorite garden blogs, Digging, which was written by Pam Pennick, who also happens to be the woman who started the Garden Bloggers Fling over a decade ago, a fantastic opportunity for garden writers and bloggers from all over the world to gather together and tour gardens. It's a fantastic opportunity to get to meet other people who share a passion for gardening and who love to share it with the world. Anyway, Pam's post featured the new owners of a nursery. It's called Barton Springs. And the title of Pam's post is New Owners of Barton Springs Nursery Plan to Add Learning, Community Spaces, and inspire local gardeners. And that's what caught my eye, that these two young owners are excited and are coming up with innovative ways to help gardeners and bring in more business to their new nursery. Now, in Pam's post, we learn that the Barton Springs Nursery is a beloved fixture in Austin. It's been around for 35 years. And Pam wrote that she was momentarily stunned when she found out that the founding owners, Bernadine and Conrad Baring, had retired. But the good news is that the new owners are super excited and very qualified to take over this institution, this Austin landmark. And the new owners are horticulturist Willie Glenn and designer Amy Hovis. Amy said, "I had a dream of designing a nursery, and I was always in love with Barton Springs. So when I got my office here, I thought that was my dream come true. And when Bernadine approached me, I was pretty excited for the opportunity." And Willie points out that gardening has changed so much in the past few years. He says, "You look at people now with their indoor jungles and this resurgence in pocket prairies and lawn reduction and all these things that have an ecological factor. We're keeping that as our primary focus, maintaining the character of being uniquely Austin. People need to get out after a stressful day. Bring your dog on a leash, have a cup of coffee, and enjoy the grounds. There are too few green spaces in Westlake, and we want to be thought of as a place you can come and enjoy that. And we also want to show people propagation. We're creating life here, and we want to share that experience. Well, this interview that Pam did with Amy and Willie is fantastic. And if you're looking for inspiration, if you're a nursery owner or someone who works at a nursery, I think you'll find Willie and Amy to be exceptionally inspiring on owning and operating the Barton Springs Nursery. That new owner enthusiasm shines right through. Now, if you'd like to check out this post for yourself in the Facebook group for the show, all you need to do is type in the word nursery in the search bar, and this post will pop up. And if you're not in the Facebook group, it is so easy to join. All you need to do is search for the words Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and request to join. I'd love to meet you in the group. Here's today's brevities. Today is the birthday of the American botanist, naturalist, and physician Benjamin Smith Barton, who was born on this day, February 10th, in 1766. Benjamin worked as a professor of natural history and botany at the University of Pennsylvania, where he authored the very first textbook on American botany. In 1803, at the request of Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin was tutoring Meriwether Lewis to get him ready for the Lewis and Clark expedition. Now, Meriwether had many strengths, but he had little knowledge of natural history or plants. And thanks to Benjamin's tutelage, Meriwether was an awesome specimen collector on the expedition. After the expedition, Benjamin was supposed to create a book describing all of the plant specimens found on their great voyage. But for some reason, Benjamin never began writing. Instead, that job ultimately fell to Benjamin's assistant, Frederick Persh. And when Frederick ended up having a falling out with Benjamin, he secretly took the specimens and fled to England. Once there, Frederick found a patron and published his Flora of North America in 2 years' time, much to the embarrassment of Benjamin Smith Barton and all of America's botanists. And there's an incredible story that came out 2 years ago in February regarding Benjamin. And the story features a little yellow butterfly that was found pressed between the pages of an 1812 manuscript that was written by Benjamin. It was in his Flora Virginica. And it turns out that a tiny, delicate, yellow-winged butterfly was discovered by a library fellow named E. Bennett Jones at the American Philosophical Society as he was looking through the book. Well, naturally, this caused a stir, and butterfly experts were called in to examine the specimen, and they believed that it was placed deliberately, since the butterfly was found on the pages listed plants beloved by pollinators, such as Monarda. Well, after this incredible discovery, the Barton butterfly, as it came to be called, was carefully removed and preserved in a suspended container. And there was a final touching detail to this story that I thought you'd enjoy. The butterfly left an indelible mark on the manuscript. Even with the specimen now safely preserved in a glass box, the pages bear a little mark of a golden butterfly-shaped stain in the spot where it lay pressed for over 200 years before it was discovered. Very sweet. And today is the birthday of the English writer Winifred Mary Lett, who was born on this day, February 10th in 1882. Gardeners love Winifred's quote on spring. She wrote, "That God once loved a garden, we learn in Holy Writ, and seen gardens in the spring, I well can credit it." Winifred also wrote a poem about spring called Spring the Cheat. And this is one of many poems that Winifred wrote about the Great War, World War I. Winifred wrote Spring the Cheat to remind people that they were not alone in their suffering. And her poem illustrates how pointless existence seems during wartime. Winifred contrasts the season of rebirth, or spring, which is cyclical, with a war-induced season of loss, which usually spreads across many seasons and is wildly at odds during spring. So here's an excerpt from Winifred's Spring the Cheat. Luminous evenings, when the blackbird sways upon the rose and tunes his flageolet, a sea of bluebells down the woodland ways. Oh, exquisite spring, all this, and yet, kinder to me, the bleak face of December, who gives no cheating hopes, but says, remember. Now, another poem that will thrill gardeners is Winifred's delightful verse that was written to honor the birth of a dear friend's baby. The baby was named Peter John Dobbs. And Winifred's poem is called To a May Baby. And I've often thought that if you're having a baby shower in May, this poem would be perfect for the invitation. To come up at tulip time, how wise. Perhaps you will not now regret the shining gardens, jewel set of your first home in paradise, nor fret because you might not quite forget. To come at swallow time, how wise, when every bird has built a nest. Now you may fold your wings and rest and watch this new world with surprise, a guest for whom the earth has donned her best. To come when life is gay, how wise, with lambs and every happy thing that frisks on foot or sports on wing, with daisies and with butterflies, but spring has naught so sweet as you to bring. In Unearthed Words, today's words are from the American gardener and author Carol Williams from her book, Bringing a Garden to Life. This is an excerpt from her section called Preparing the Ground. When one is first beginning to garden, or gardening in a place one does not yet know, soil can seem dumb and unhelpful, just dirt. It is gray and empty, or yellow, clammy, and stony, or perhaps it is black and full of worms. Little pebbles might be interspersed all through it, or big ones, or maybe there's a rock ledge of spade's depth away. The plants thrive or languish in mysterious ways. As one begins to work in it, a sense of the soil sharpens. One gets to know its grit or muddiness, its smell and warmth or chill, how it holds or drains water? What creatures inhabit it? One might notice how these qualities connect with each other, how they show themselves in the way the plants grow. Most of all, one discovers that the soil does not stay the same, but like anything alive, it is always changing and telling its own story. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Cottage Gardens by Claire Massett. This book came out in 2020, and the subtitle is A Celebration of Britain's Most Beautiful Cottage Gardens with Advice on Making Your Own. In this book, Claire shares every possible type of cottage garden. Famous profiles include the writer Thomas Hardy's cottage garden in Dorset, the glorious cottage garden at Sissinghurst by Vita Sackville West and Harold Nicholson, Beatrix Potter's cottage garden known as Hilltop, and many more. And best of all, Claire thoughtfully offers down-to-earth advice to gardeners who wish to learn how to create their own cottage garden. This book is 176 pages of cottage garden inspiration, winding garden paths lined with hollyhocks, climbing roses and honeysuckle, orchards, and wildflowers. You can get a copy of Cottage Gardens by Claire Massett and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $15. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. Today is the anniversary of the death of Laura Ingalls Wilder, who died on this day, February 10th, in 1957. One of the reasons that so many of us have a soft spot in our hearts for the Little House books is because Laura was so descriptive. She was a natural storyteller. In retrospect, I think you might be surprised by the amount of material in Laura's books that was devoted to the natural world. You have Ma's gardens, the landscapes that Laura and her family experienced, and the reverence for life, plants, animals, and human life. All of it is so cherished by Laura and her loved ones. In 2017, the author Marta McDowell wrote a book called The World of Laura Ingalls Wilder, and in it, she highlights the frontier landscapes that inspired the Little House books. And Marta's book sheds new light on Laura as a naturalist. In a blog post, Marta challenged us by writing, "I'd like to suggest a thought experiment. Instead of categorizing Laura Ingalls Wilder as an American children's author, think of her as a nature writer as well. Long before she was a writer, Laura Ingalls Wilder was a gardener and farmer, growing food for the table and raising crops for sale. Nature was her home, as well as little houses. And through her life and work, Laura sowed a deep appreciation for the world outside one's own door. Her books still inspire budding naturalists to plant, preserve, and appreciate their own Wilder gardens. Well, Marta and I had a lovely chat that is featured in episode 585 of the Still Growing podcast, if you'd like to check that out. And one time, we even had a nice little lunch together as she passed through the Twin Cities. And I have to say that Marta is one of my favorite garden authors, and I loved her idea of writing about Laura as a naturalist. And in researching Laura, I discovered many wonderful things that she'd written about the natural world outside of her wonderful Little House books. One time in the Missouri Ruralist, Laura wrote, "The voices of nature do not speak so plainly to us as we grow older, but I think it's because in our busy lives we neglect her until we grow out of sympathy. Our ears and eyes grow dull, and beauties are lost to us that we should still enjoy. Life was not intended to be simply a round of work, no matter how interesting and important that work may be. A moment's pause to watch the glory of a sunrise or a sunset is so satisfying, while a birdsong will set the steps to music all day long." And in early February of 1918, over 100 years ago, Laura wrote, "Now is the time to make a garden." Anyone can be a successful gardener at this time of year, and I know of no pleasanter occupation these cold, snowy days than to sit warm and snug by the fire, making a garden with a pencil and a seed catalog. What perfect vegetables do we raise in that way, and so many of them. Our radishes are crisp and sweet, our lettuce tender, and our tomatoes smooth and beautifully colored. Best of all, there's not a bug or worm in the whole garden, and the work is so easily done. In imagination, we see the plants in our spring garden, all in straight, thrifty rows, with the fruit of each plant and vine numerous and beautiful as the pictures before us. How near the real garden of next summer approaches the ideal garden of our winter fancies depends upon how practically we dream and how hard we work. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. Hey, thanks for spending part of your day with The Daily Gardener. If you want to read even more botanical brevities, just head on over to thedailygardener.org. That's where you can find all the stories, biographies, and books that I share on the show. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for my free Friday newsletter. It has lots of goodies in it, and I try to make the newsletter like you're getting a marvelous letter from a garden friend. You can always find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media. You can follow the show on Twitter, and you have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for listeners of the show. Just search for Daily Gardener Community the next time you're on Facebook and request to join. Last but not least, you can easily share your gardener greetings or book submissions by emailing me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. The Daily Gardener is produced in lovely Maple Grove in Wyoming, Minnesota, with the help of Paige Mance, Brooke Bierbaum, and Eric Begay. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and as always, have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.